Everybody makes mistakes, but some of them are worse than others, and some of them make it hard to sleep at night. So today, I'm going to be honest and tell you the top 5 mistakes I've made in reptile keeping and how you can avoid making the same ones. My name's Adam, this is Diamond, you're watching Wickens Reptiles, stick around. It's sometimes hard to admit when you're wrong, but I think it's important, especially if you've made a mistake. You can tell other people, other keepers, and prevent them from making the same mistake, even if maybe it makes you look bad or whatever the word is you want to use. So let's just get right into it, starting off with number 5. I'm talking about an egg incubation error that I lost an entire clutch, 2 clutches of hognose eggs. I mentioned on Instagram recently that I had 2 clutches of hognose eggs pop out in the incubator. We're talking 40 eggs in total. What you do with hognose eggs, or any eggs really, most eggs, is you create a substrate or a medium, usually use perlite, or in my case I use vermiculite most of the time. You make it just wet enough that it clumps into a ball, but when you squeeze it, it doesn't drip. Put it into a container, you put the eggs down into the substrate, you put a lid on it, and then you exchange the air every few days, or you poke a hole in the container. To each their own, it depends on what you want to do. If you make it too humid, you make the substrate or medium too moist, if you don't exchange the air enough, if there's too much condensation and the condensation get on the eggs can go bad. This is user error almost all the time. I use the same incubator, which I've made videos about how to make it of a cooler, that I use for the leopard gecko eggs. All the leopard gecko eggs are doing great. The hognose eggs didn't. I lost both clutches. I don't know if it was because I didn't exchange the air often enough. I think that the substrate was maybe a little too moist. Usually it's more forgiving than that, and I lost the entire clutch for both clutches. This is devastating. It's embarrassing. I hate to admit that this happened, but at the end of the day, that's how it is. So always check every single day. Some people will tell you, oh, you don't want to exchange the air every day. As long as your incubator is set up properly and so is the medium, you're going to be fine. If you go in there and you see tons and tons of moisture on the top of the lid, that means that it's too moist in there. And if I checked every day, I probably wouldn't have had this issue. Now, I've lost hognose eggs and ball python eggs in the past, but I've never lost entire clutches. And this was definitely my fault for not checking often enough or giving the instruction to the zookeeper to check often enough. That's on me, it's my responsibility. And yeah, it sucks. So I'm hoping that these 2 girls double clutch, but still, it's just kind of a gutting feeling. I know I seemed a little bit maybe not as excitable or energetic at the beginning of this video. I felt kind of tired. I want to say thanks to today's sponsor, AG1, for kind of helping me out with that. I've always found it a little bit difficult or kind of annoying to take a bunch of different pills to supplement my nutrition, but with AG1 is much more convenient daily nutrition. 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, gluten-free, dairy-free, paleo, vegan, keto, and only 1 gram of naturally occurring sugar per serving. I don't drink or eat sugar. It makes me feel weird. My body doesn't like it. It makes my teeth feel weird. That's why I love AG1. It replenishes my daily nutrients, and truthfully, I just feel much better after I drink some AG1. I was a national level natural bodybuilder back in the day. I've taken all the supplements that I can think of, and truthfully, you would be hard-pressed to find a more comprehensive powder supplement on the market. Plus, it's super easy. Put it into a bottle with water, shake it up, and drink it. That's why I love it. I'm busy. I go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. If I am tasked with taking a bunch of different little tiny pills from different brands and different bottles, I'm just not going to do it. If I have to take a bottle of water, which I can find anywhere, and one of these single-serve packs, I get my daily vitamins and nutrients every single day, and it's not even a hassle. It takes 30 seconds. If this wasn't enough, I'm telling you, if you go to drinkag1.com/Wickens and make your first purchase, you're gonna get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2 and 5 free travel packs. The travel packs are my favorite. I've said that before. All you have to do is go to drinkag1.com/Wickens. Free 1-year supply of D3 and K2 and 5 free travel packs. Let's move back to the list. Number 4, missing animals. So this is something that is almost always the zookeeper's fault, or the keeper's fault, I should say, reptile keeper. I don't mean my zookeeper. This has never happened. What I'm talking about is leaving doors unlocked, or if the mesh fails, or if you leave a bin kind of pulled out too much. Now, I think the first year I started the channel, I lost one of my leopard geckos. It was my fault. I didn't push the bin in. Sometimes the bins in racks will stick, and you think if you're not looking, oh, it's pushed in all the way, it hit the back, when really it gets stuck on the tape or something like that at the back, and it's still cracked, right? That's all a leopard gecko needs. I made a video called Finding Millie because the leopard gecko's name is Millie. She got out of the tub and she was right under the rack. So it was no big deal. I found her immediately. In the past, I have had, Nikki, my hognose snake, one of my hognose snakes when he was a baby, got out, again, my fault, left the tub open, just a tiny crack. He was gone for, I think, 3 months. We found him, he was a gram heavier somehow. Don't know how that worked out. But in the past, I've had animals that I didn't find recently. What I'm talking about is I have these crested geckos. I usually cohab crested geckos together when they're first born. So I'll put like 2 clutches, that's 2 per clutch, so 4 babies in one enclosure until they're big enough, then I sell them off. But I put them in an old Exoterra, and the lid, well, maybe was past its prime, and I put something heavy on the lid. I think it was my notebook that I use, just like a regular notebook for my notes for these videos. I put it on top of there, and it collapsed, and the geckos got out, every single one of them. And we came down one day, and there was a gecko on the garbage pail. We checked the garbage to make sure there was no more. 4 of them got out. We found 3. We found the other one last week, and this happened May 16th, I remember, this year. We're still looking for the other one. We're finding poops places, so we know it's alive, and we leave water out and things like that, and little cups of food, but we haven't found it yet. So I'm still looking. This is my fault again, and it was just one of those things where I put something heavy on top of a screen lid that probably wasn't as sturdy as it could have been. So sure, this is not a neglectful thing. I didn't mean to do this. It's not like leaving a door unlocked or something like that. And what I would recommend so this doesn't happen to you is every day, just make sure that there's nothing on top of these enclosure lids, right? On top of the mesh to push through. Check to make sure that there's no gaps every once in a while. And when you go into your reptile room, when you're leaving for the day, walk around and look. Because I've done it before where I've left a door open. Oh, I'm gonna come back to it. And then the phone rings or something, you get distracted. Something happened. The dog barks at the door, doorbell rings, whatever. And you get distracted. So when you're done for the day, make sure you go around and look. Make sure everything is latched up. Make sure everything is closed, and then you're never gonna have this issue. Number 3, I have relied on automation too much. Now, don't get me wrong. I stand by what I say. I talk about automation all the time. Automation is the best. I think it makes everyone's life easier. There is nothing in this world that makes things easier with reptile keeping than automation. And what I'm talking about is timers, right? So the smart timers that kind of turn lights or whatever on and off, misters, things like that. So I have 2 misting systems in this room. I've got one for this section right here, smaller one, and I've got a big one for this section because it's a lot more water. The reservoir is a 20-gallon pail. Huge, right? Huge pail of water. So I fill it with RO water all the time. It mists. I need to fill it once every 2 weeks. But if you don't check to make sure that it's functioning, things can get too dry, and then you're gonna have issues. So for example, if you have a great subfloor because you did the flooring yourself and you're decent at doing flooring, if there was a spill, it would evaporate and it wouldn't cause a huge mess. It would go to the subfloor, dissipate. That's how it's made, right? So supposing you have a 20-gallon pail that has a leak at the gasket somehow, and it all pours out and you don't notice because there's only a little puddle in that section of the room, well, your misting system might not have worked for about a week, which is exactly what happened. Now, this wasn't a huge deal. Nothing died, nothing got sick, but it is a lesson because what if I were to have gone on vacation and didn't check? That's the other thing too. So to prevent this, always check to make sure your misting systems are working or your smart timers or whatever. But if you want, put a camera in your room if you're leaving, right? So if you leave for a week, everything's hooked up to automation, you're good to go. Have a zookeeper on standby or a babysitter, pet sitter, whatever. But have a camera in your room, making sure the lights are going on and off, make sure that the misters are spraying, whatever it is you can do. And it's easy. Google sells them for like 120 bucks. Number 2, not being prepared for disaster. This is when I was first keeping reptiles, okay? I had a small collection, very small. I think I had 3 reptiles. Power went out, middle of winter, lived in a small house, poorly insulated, and it got cold. Very cold. And I had 2 bearded dragons and a leopard gecko. So I put them in bags and put them in my shirt, basically, right, to keep them warm. But what happens if that happened now? We had a big winter storm, let's say, and that happened now. Well, you need a generator. So buy a generator, buy heat packs also. So you can buy these shipping packs, right? Or hand warmer packs. If you buy the hand warmer packs, they get too warm. You'll have to wrap them in a towel so they don't burn your animals. But more or less, I did a whole video right here, so I'm not gonna get too much into the weeds of it, but always be prepared. And this goes too with food. Nothing drives me more crazy than, oh, it's time to feed the dogs and then there's no food, right? It doesn't make any sense. Same thing with rapashi or mealworms or whatever. If you are halfway done, a thing of rapashi, a bottle of gecko food, for example, go buy more gecko food or put it on order. Don't let yourself go another day or another feeding without buying new. If you wait for things to run out, first of all, this is a pet peeve. People who do this drive me crazy, but you're setting yourself up for disaster. If you have just gone through all the produce, go buy new produce today. Just get ready for the next time. Don't wait until the next time to get ready. If you fail to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Period. And the number one mistake that I have made recently, in fact, is cohabbing babies too long. So I think it's fine for a lot of species. I'll use two as examples: leopard geckos and crested geckos. If you want to cohab the clutch, because it's usually 2 eggs at a time, then that's totally fine. If you want to cohab crested geckos, 2 clutches, so let's suppose 2 babies hatch, and then 2 weeks later, another 2 babies hatch, okay? And you put them all together for a short amount of time, make sure that they're not bullying each other. All the cohab stuff, I'm not gonna go into. Use your head, use common sense, learn how to do this. Then you wanna make sure you get the babies out before they show aggression. Because once they get old enough, males are going to fight, or even bigger females will fight, or males and females will fight, or whatever. So you wanna make sure that everyone is growing at a good rate, everyone's getting a chance to get food, no one's getting bullied. I recently found one of my crested geckos literally biting one of the other crested geckos. It wasn't that much smaller, but I think I waited too long to separate them. I think that I waited too long to list and sell, and that was my fault. Now this gecko was fine, didn't even lose its tail. Totally fine, no big deal. But if I wasn't there, in that moment, it could have got bad and that animal could have been injured. Again, my fault. I should have done better. I shouldn't have waited so long. In future, what I've done is I've set up timers on my phone. So immediately I say the keyword, you know what it is. Please remind me on this day, and I put it, I don't know, 4 weeks in advance or 6 weeks or however long I think it is, to check on the crested geckos. So I never ever forget. If you have ADHD or something that makes you forget or whatever it is, timers on your phone. Everybody has a smartphone. You're probably watching this video on one. Set a reminder so you can't forget. You literally can't forget. And when you see the reminder, don't close it until you go do the actual thing. For example, I fill bottles with RO water, right? Reverse osmosis water. I set it on my Apple Watch and it vibrates. I don't let the vibrating stop until I go turn off the water. Otherwise, I'll turn it off, get distracted, and the water's gonna run all night and make a huge mess. So don't let the annoying thing you set go away until you fix the annoying thing. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching and hitting like and subscribe. I really appreciate you. It helps this channel so much. As always, a special thanks to the Patreon supporters. You guys get discounts on merch. You know about the really cool animals I got at the expo last week. All of that and more for as little as $1 a month. And because I do videos on Mondays and Thursdays, that means I'll see you in the next one.